This week's episode is sponsored by Electric Collab, a psychology-based branding and web design studio that positions founders to win more premium clients with a brand they're wildly proud of. If you want to serve a premium audience, you need brand messaging, design, and a digital presence that reflects the elevated quality of your work. Spoiler alert, Electric Collab is my brand studio. So if a rebrand has been in your mind, I would love to meet you. Learn more by visiting electriccollab.com. Now on to the episode. Welcome to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, a podcast exploring today's most interesting topics through the lens of a happy child-free life. Every week, I chat with experts inspiring us to think differently, live intentionally, and find fulfillment on our terms. Whether you're child-free or seeking a space where parenthood isn't part of the conversation, you are welcome here. It's not about comparison, it's about possibility. Before we start the episode, do you know about the Curious Life Club on Substack? It's a free community to enjoy bonus content and sneak peeks, and to connect with other cool women like you. Join us at CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.substack.com. Now let's get curious together. Brent and Kyle Pease have spent over a decade advancing inclusion as the brother team behind some of the most inspiring moments in endurance sports. Kyle was born with cerebral palsy and has never let that define what he can or cannot do. Brent is a seasoned endurance athlete and coach who has raced side by side with his brother in everything from local races to world championships. They made history in 2018 as the first push-assist duo to complete the IRONMAN World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. Together, they've crossed more than 100 finish lines, raised over $12 million through the Kyle Pease Foundation, and sparked a national conversation about inclusion in sports, workplaces, and communities. Welcome, Kyle and Brent.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited for this conversation. And I thought we would start with your backstory. So can you just tell the listeners a little bit about what made you decide to start racing together, and just kind of explain what that experience actually looks like?
Yeah, so I graduated from Florida State University in 2010. He started doing a fitting scouting, and I built his way up to Ironman. And he invited a whole family to go to Louisville, Kentucky to watch him. And I would get into our own fight when I saw that they not only by Brett, but the other competitors fight called their way to the finish line. And they really reminded me of my own life and the struggles and the challenges that I face on a daily basis. So I asked Brett if people with real kids could do races like me, and he said yeah. So that's kind of how the journey got started.
Beautiful. I love the comparison of challenges. I mean, an Ironman seems insane to me. I'm just so in awe of anything in these types of athletics. So tell me more, like the first race. So you were there, you had this inspiration. Tell me about the first race experience. What was it that made you both feel like, okay, wait, we're on to something, we want to do more and more?
You know, it's interesting you just saying that. It just quickly popped in my head because it feels like when we first started doing this in 2010 and 11, doing these huge challenges was not the norm. Now it's Ironman almost feels, oh, you did an Ironman. Well, what's the bigger thing you can do? But at the time for us, this felt like this daunting, impossible task. And so the next step was just go do a race. So we did a sprint triathlon in Florida. And then we did a 10K, and then we did a half marathon. It was like we were trying to build the process and do the steps to get to a place where it was always going to lead to an Ironman. Kyle saw so much that day, as he said, that he needed to experience that for himself. I wanted to experience it with him, but I knew that we couldn't just jump off the high dive, that we needed to kind of work our way through the process of learning what it meant to be triathletes together, because it was a new thing for Kyle too.
Yeah, I get sick of this in society when I feel like we're always focused on the bigger and better thing. As you mentioned, like, how are we in a place where Ironman feels like no big deal? That seems wild to me, but it's true. Like, just our natural
evolution and progress, it's so hard for any of us to feel content or settled, it seems, with our accomplishments, even though so much went into those accomplishments. Like running any race is a big deal. And then to just get bigger and bigger. How do you feel about that? Do you have to work extra to stop and celebrate?
Great point. Great question. Yeah, people constantly feel this need to move the goalposts, right? Like 5K, great. Well, when are you doing a 10K? You know, it's awesome. It's getting really good at a 5K. So I guess for Kyle and I, what I've always felt like we leaned into at first, I don't think either of us understood we were doing this, but now I do see it. And we both are very intentional about it, is that it's really much more about the process for both of us. Like at the beginning, the race was the thing, the accomplishment was the thing. But what we didn't realize is that as adults, we were spending all this time together. And how special is that as brothers? And so when we sign up for these races, it's about what are we doing together? And that includes training, that includes the preparation and the conversations and the fundraising and all these things that have to happen, so that by the time we show up to the race, that is our moment to celebrate. It is the moment to celebrate everything that we've worked at. Like we did Kona again for the second time last October, but it took us 2 years to get ready for that. And so when we were finally in Kona, our mentality was no matter what happens today, we're going to be grateful. And what we were really doing is celebrating 2 years of hard work. And maybe our parents might argue a lifetime of hard work. But I think that's kind of the key for us and maybe for others out there, is to say, what is it that I do to get to that moment? Because the moment is so fleeting. Like the finish line of an Ironman for us is 15 seconds, right? Whereas the process to get there was 2 whole years that we spent together doing this pretty incredible thing. So we don't feel like we have to move the goalpost because we did it. We just ran a 5K a month ago and had a blast. So lean into the stuff that you love, the process, the moments that get you to that.
It's such a good reminder about the process. I think we forget it in sports and in everything else, right? Building a business, getting ready to sell a product, like renovating your house, whatever it is, we focus on the finish line so much, which to your point is such a small little section of the overall effort and energy that goes into accomplishing something like this. And sports, I think, can be such a beautiful example of finding a way to enjoy the ritual of getting ready and getting out there, like all the unglamorous parts. And then the finish line is this big hurrah. So I appreciate that reminder to just stay present. Also, a big reason why I wanted to have you on this show is because I love your relationship as brothers. I'm very close with my brother. And we talk about sibling relationships sometimes on this show. For me, as a child-free woman and people listening who don't have kids, we're always looking at different ways to build familial bonds and relationships. And I think keeping this closeness as siblings into adulthood is sadly a little bit rare. Tell us more about that and just how you two have learned to work together through this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think, first of all, Brett had made me a better man. He had taught me so much about preparing for life, preparing for Ironman, preparing for how to run a nonprofit organization. But we also joke and laugh a lot. So I think it's important that you have a good balance, having fun, and then knowing what your goals are. And I think that we do a very good job of that.
Kyle and I have always had a close relationship. It was just the way I reacted to what I saw as a kid. I saw a brother who couldn't do everything for himself, and I wanted to lean in and help. And that was just my reaction. You know, it wasn't that somebody said you have to do this. And so when we got to that age where siblings tend to kind of go into their own world, whether that's marriage and kids or careers or even things like Ironman. I mean, my first Ironman, Kyle and I used to meet up at least once a month to watch football. And all of a sudden now I'm riding 100 miles. And so, well, where's Brent? You know, my buddy that I used to hang out with. And I think what's really been special about this whole thing is exactly like you just said. We kind of stumbled into it without realizing. We thought we were signing up to complete this big, huge goal, Ironman. What we didn't realize is that we were learning all the things that Kyle just mentioned about how he was becoming a better man, a better human through these experiences. But for me, it allowed us to lean into that relationship and be even more closely connected to just say, okay, we're going to share all this stuff together now. We're going to share some challenging things and we're going to share some fun moments. I mean, we've had both. Kyle and I can speak to each other like brothers, and that works really well when you're trying to support each other in a race, and it can be challenging because we know how to push each other's buttons. I think the big thing is that doing these things together, it lets us lean into the core of what was always there, which was a strong friendship and strong brotherhood, and something that I think we're both very grateful for it, as well as proud of.
Yeah. Going back to your previous question, I think you also have to celebrate the small victory in life that you focus on that as well.
You're so right. And it feels like even just what you described, when we think about everything we want to do as healthy, thriving adults, like maintaining relationships with our family, our siblings, our friends, being successful in careers, being active, having hobbies, this stuff becomes a full-time job, or it can feel that way. And you too could have kept all of this to yourselves, right? Like you have built this beautiful bond, you've built this relationship, you're pursuing your passions of doing these races together. Like that would be enough, right? I would already be impressed by you if you were just like, wow, look at what we've established to go through life together. But you're going beyond that to be really vocal and visible with your own story and your own journey. Tell us why that's important to you. Why is it so important to spread this message of inclusion?
I think you're exactly right. If we were sitting here 15 years after we started this and we'd just been doing it by ourselves all along, I don't think anybody would say, gosh, you guys, how come you never helped another person? I mean, we were already helping each other. Right. And there's a lot in that. But I think it's just also the world we grew up in. We grew up in a way that even so much as going to a swimming pool, like before I could hold them, that meant one of my parents had to be in the pool the whole time. And Kyle and I, and we have another brother, Evan, when the three of us were at an age where most parents might say, jump in the pool and do your own thing. It's like they had to be there for that. And so I think a lot of those experiences as kids just taught us about compassion and inclusion, if I had to pick just two. And so when we did that first race, Kyle's nearly instant reaction was, we have to include other people in this. And that was really the basis for how we started the Kyle Pease Foundation, which was really just about inclusion. When you look at, like you said this about your brother, about being child-free, about just being intentional about your relationship with your brother or others to have your own community, people that are living with disabilities, especially adults, finding your community can be a very big challenge, right? Even so much as we got invited to a party on Saturday and they were like, we'd love Kyle to come. And I was like, well, tell me about the house. Like, well, there's 20 steps to get to where we are. And I was like, well, it's a 400-pound wheelchair, so that doesn't work. So you got to be really intentional about that. Kyle was very intentional to say, this race experience was really special. I am willing to do a lot of work so that everybody else can be part of this too and experience this too. Because as far as I can think, and I don't know that Kyle would disagree, what we do in endurance sports is about as inclusive an activity as we've ever found, because we both do it together as well as everybody else through the Kyle Pease Foundation.
I'm glad you used the word intentional. I use that a lot in talking about the different people we feature on this show. And I feel like we all have a role to play in that. And what you just said about community and helping people find community, clearly you're doing that through the foundation. So tell us more. What does the foundation do?
The foundation makes it into improve the lives of people with disabilities through sports and beyond. So what we do is we provide the volunteers, we provide the inclusive environment along with the wheelchairs, and it's free for all of our families.
We do everything from 5K to Ironman. The mission is very ambiguous on purpose. We got really good advice from somebody smarter than us 15 years ago. So it's really about creating community and creating an inclusive community. Whatever that looks like to these families, we're going to work hard to do it. We have an employment program now. We have a mentorship program we're just now launching. We have a kids program we launched at the beginning of this year, focused on the Kyles of tomorrow, both the volunteers as well as the athletes. It's really about creating community through sports, and that's what we've been able to grow. So last year was 150 families. across 42 different events. So really a much deeper organization than just the two of us.
Okay, I want to talk about all these different facets of this, but I think it's so important what you're doing. We keep using the word inclusion, and I feel like that's like the flagship vocab word for this episode because it is so important. But for everybody listening, I think it's so valuable for all of us. We've all felt excluded for something in our lives. And then there's other times when we feel included, and we know like the visceral difference in your body and your brain when you experience those emotions depending on what feels available to you. And I feel like we're missing out on human power, like perspective, understanding, just the nuance of what people can do together if we're not leaning into this inclusive way of thinking. But it's just not always top of mind for people, you know? I think that's why your foundation is so critical. And the sports piece I love, and you can feel that you have a passion and that's your personal experience with it. But tell me more about the pieces above and beyond sports that you do. Like you said, the word beyond. Tell me more what that means.
Yeah. So, by the way, have you ever heard of Kate's Club?
No.
Kate's Club was started by a young woman who had lost her mother to cancer. And it is a foundation to help adolescents and kids deal with the loss of a family member. So when she lost her mom to cancer, she didn't really know. She tells this amazing story that when she was in middle school, yo mama jokes were popular, right? And so the worst thing for her after her mother passed was that she would walk into a group as somebody was telling a yo mama joke, and they would see her and they would stop. And she said that it was worse than losing her mom to not be included because they didn't think they could. When I think about what we do at the foundation and when I think about what these other things are, like you said, we can all think of in some time that we weren't included, and we can think of some time when we were and how that made us feel. And so we've had all these little moments as we started this where we're the ones truly learning and remembering those lessons. So the first and beyond moment happened with a young man named Justin, who everybody here affectionately calls J-Dude. And J-Dude did an Ironman, just like his buddy Kyle. And when J-Dude finished that Ironman, he said, I want a job. And we were caught off guard because I thought if you celebrate the pinnacle of endurance sports, you would want to do something else big, like another big race. Like we already talked about that at the beginning here. Justin said, no, I want to be like Kyle and I want to have a job and a community and a place to go. And so we have office space now because of Justin. We have an inclusive employment program because of Justin. So the and beyond piece is really slowly evolving. So as we started hiring people with disabilities to work for us, we realized that they'd never worked in an office. They never had the water cooler conversation or the pranks on each other in the office or just like hanging out, the gray space that exists in a corporate setting sometimes. And so we got office space, and now we have 8 employees with disabilities that work for the Kyle Pease Foundation. And now we've realized they all need to learn. So we've launched a mentorship program. We're continuing to look at ways to evolve what and beyond can truly mean to these families, because it's really about where else can we include them. We figured out how to include them in sports. Actually, we're really good at that. We're learning how to include them in life, not just on a Saturday morning program.
I love that you shared Kate's Club. What she's doing is important. My best friend, her mom passed away our senior year of college, so a little past teenage years. And we've had a lot of these conversations where nobody knows what to do with her around Mother's Day, right? Do we bring it up? Do we not bring it up? Do we ask her how she's feeling? Is that going to make it worse? And so often it comes with good intentions, I think. But when we feel like we don't know what to say, we don't know what to ask, we're afraid we're going to do something that's going to make it worse, we just do nothing. And we just like withdraw from the person or the moment or the conversation. And in that example you just described, maybe that's the worst thing that we could possibly do, even though we think we're doing right. So do you have conversations like this with people just as part of your education?
All the time. So Kyle, I don't know if you can see, Kyle has spastic quadriplegia as part of his cerebral palsy condition. So all 4 of his limbs are infected, and that means his muscles and his body is in constant contraction. And so his right hand, which is where he has the most mobility, is, I'm going to just pick it up and show you.
Yeah. Hey.
His hand is always like that. So when people meet Kyle, they don't really know, should I shake his hand? Do I fist bump him, or do I just pretend that he didn't raise his arm to say hi to me? Our favorite thing, and we educate people on this constant, is like, ask, hey, do you shake hands or do I fist bump? If you see a name on a sheet of paper and you don't know how to pronounce it before you have a guest on, you're going to say, hey, how do I pronounce your name? right? Kyle and I just did a speech in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It was a small group, and every single person in the room walked up and shook Kyle's hand. And I was blown away. I'd never seen that in my entire life with Kyle as a brother. And I don't even know what it was with this group and why they did it, but they all did it. And they didn't all see each other do it, by the way. Like, we were in this like house. And so one person would walk up and introduce himself and shake his hand, and then they'd leave. And the next person that came up hadn't even seen who we were just talking to. So it's really incredible. And I think that's what inclusion ends up looking is ask. You don't know that somebody might love to be with you on Mother's Day, even though they don't have kids or they don't have a mom anymore. But what a fun day to just be with your community and let them celebrate what that day is to them, right? Because to you, it may just be, I love being with my friends who always go to brunch. For them, it might mean something totally different. For Kyle, that personal gesture of shaking hands and connecting with him as a human, not as a person with a disability, can make a big impact on his day.
I love the permission almost to ask, because I do think sometimes we just get nervous, but curiosity is everything, right? I think curiosity with positive intent and curiosity to really understand, like, what is it that's going to work for you, whether it's we're talking about shaking hands or something bigger or whatever, just having those open conversations and feeling safe to do that. And then responding positively when people ask us stuff. I think that would just make everything a little bit more inclusive, even just conversation, if we felt comfortable asking questions.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree.
Okay, well, we're getting there and you guys are doing the work to make it happen. So, okay.
That's the fun part for both of us, is that I was 27, Kyle was 25 when we started the foundation. We didn't even know that we were starting a business. We ran a triathlon and it was one of the most amazing experiences of our lives. Let's let other people experience this. What we didn't understand is that we were creating a real community of inclusion. And that was giving other people permission to say, how do I help? Or how do I help Kyle? Or how do I talk to Kyle? Right. And so it's allowed us to understand what that mission truly means and lets us kind of go into that process now, where the original process was, how do I do an Ironman? Today's process is, how do I create inclusion, not just for Kyle, but for you and for the volunteers and the people that come through our organization, allows them to be part of it.
I think that, we rely on generous donors, but all of our families that we serve, they are going through something, right? And so when they come to our social gathering, I want them to forget about whatever their challenge is, whatever their disability is, and I just want them to focus on being included and focus on that family atmosphere that we have created.
It's so impressive, just the short list of things that you mentioned. And of course, we'll have your website and everything linked in the show notes, but everything that you do take care of, like providing all of this support and space and tangible things, not just for the athletes themselves, but for the family members and the support teams that come with those people. Okay, so I want to go back to the employment piece, because I think this is something that is just like a black hole in people's minds. And I own a business separate from this. So I meet with a lot of business owners so often. And frankly, we're never talking about inclusion. I just don't think that's like a centered conversation when it comes to running a business, hiring, expansion. And I used to work for a company, it was a hospitality company. So they did ground up restaurant concepts. And there was a program where we had people with different abilities who would work in the restaurants. And ultimately, that business was sold. And through the sale, part of the mission was to find new jobs for all of the people who were on the team who had different levels of abilities. And it was shockingly hard. Like, it really opened my eyes to the lack of understanding and opportunity for people. And it took months. Like, that was the longest piece of this like really complicated sale, was just finding placement for all of these amazing employees that had work history and mentorship and all these things like through the business. So I'd love to hear more. I know you said it's evolving, about maybe your mission and the employment and education space, but also what do you want people listening to know? Like, where have we kind of missed the mark in welcoming more diverse people into our organizations?
When we started the organization, it was truly about inclusion. So like when Kyle and I race on an Ironman with a bike, Kyle sits in front. And that was always very important to us, that Kyle was going to be treated like a cyclist. He was going to be included. He wasn't just going to be somebody that I towed through the race. Like, he was doing the race too. When Justin came to us and said, I want a job, we didn't want to just go, okay, you're going to turn on the lights to the office and we'll tell everybody we hired you. It was like, what is a meaningful job that I can give this young man? Something that will give him fulfillment. And that was step one. And step two was, how do we make it accessible or accommodating to all of our employees? Because I sat through some educational opportunities, and the easiest example I can give everybody that's listening is, when you take yourself to work, you're responsible for getting yourself to and from work. You're responsible for feeding yourself, going to the bathroom, turning on your computer, all of those things. And that's why a lot of people in this space tend to spend more energy, or tend to have more people, this is opinion, by the way, that are on the intellectual spectrum of disabilities, because they can take care of themselves as individuals. We've taken it to a different direction, that the majority of the people we serve through the foundation have physical limitations, and we make it as accommodating as possible while still providing meaningful work. So Kyle's a great example. When Kyle comes to the office, Sarah, who helped schedule this here today, who helps at the foundation, Sarah was just feeding Kyle lunch. Kyle couldn't feed himself lunch. One of us will take him to the bathroom today. That's not our responsibility as an employer, but we have taken that role on because we want Kyle and Justin and all these other young adults that work for us to be able to have a place to call theirs, and that they have a job, that they have real responsibility. We have 2 people that are in charge of recruitment for us. They've got to sit and send out emails and phone calls and go to other nonprofits to meet with them. And that was always really important to us. So I don't want to just sit here and say, yeah, we've got 6 people that work for us. What do? Well, they stuff envelopes every week and build gift baskets. That's great. It's meaning, but we wanted more than that. And so those 8 employees, the reason we don't have 30 is because I don't have 30 jobs yet, but we started to find partners. We have our first one, and I'll call them out by name because they're an amazing partner, Fire Protection Services here in Georgia. They are a sprinkler system and fire inspection company, right? They've hired one of our employees that goes into their office and does what? Meaningful work. That creates more inclusion, because Justin doesn't just come to the office as somebody who takes out the trash. He comes to the office to be with Kyle, his peer, his coworker, and that's his community. So that's where this has continued to evolve for us.
Yeah, I oversee that department. Yeah. And I always tell them that we work together. Like, I'm their supervisor, but like, we work together. Like, we're all equal here. We're all trying to do the same goal. Is that to make inclusion a forefront of what we do. So it's important that they know that we're equal, but I also hold them to accountability as well. And that we're different for everyone on our team. But I just wanted to know that we're going to have a good time, but we also have to do the work as well.
Kyle has an open door policy, but mostly because he tells him he can't open the door.
See, this is why you're fun to work with and work for, because you're making it fun.
By the way, we're getting new office space, and we told them, we're like, we cannot move into new office space unless we have controlled access for all the inclusive employees to be able to open the doors on their own. We try to think of those things too.
You could totally go into like the consulting space for this. I know that your core mission is around athletics, or I think it is, but I think there are companies who would like to do this and would invest in this, but they just have no idea what to do.
I think it'll get there eventually. I do foresee that as an opportunity for us, especially with somebody like Kyle, who has a college degree. Kyle's been in the workforce since he was 15 years old. He's been working for a very long time. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's just helping them learn and finding the right partners. I don't actually fault companies who might say, hey, we can't hire Kyle because we don't have a way to provide care to him. We'll make the accommodation. Legally, they have to, right? So if I want to send Kyle into an office with a caregiver, they have to make that accessible, but they don't necessarily have to pay that caregiver. But what about finding those right partners that are like, okay, we're in. There's an organization here, Bobby Dodd Institute. They do $16 to $18 million a year in the nonprofit workspace for people with disabilities. It's incredible the work they do. they have a much smaller population of people on the physical side. And it's because of the partners and employers that are willing to take that on. So I do hope that more start to reach out and start to inquire, because as we keep dancing around and talking about that inclusion piece, it's good for everybody.
I feel like that's such a key. Unfortunately, things often come down to what's in it for me. And I have mixed emotions about that, of course. But when I build brands for companies and the ultimate goal is to sell their services, I'm always trying to remind them, think about your client and like what is in it for them. So, yeah, I just think continuing to spread the message, which you both do beautifully, around all of the upside to the different dynamics of being a person and having perspective and understanding. There's so much there. There's so much richness that we will definitely miss if we are not open to just different types of people. It's as simple as that in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
What makes you excited about the future? Tell me some of the achievements or milestones that you have already crossed or completed in the foundation, and what makes you excited about the future?
Well, for one, for the foundation, next year is our 50 year of operation. So we're totally excited about that. What made me excited is what me and Brett have built together, and that through upcoming races such as the Boston Marathon in April, because this is really to push the envelope more and more to showcase what we are doing is showing our community and the world what is truly possible. That would make me the most exciting.
I love that.
It's always been Kyle's vision. I think that when we first started, I just wanted to help because he had a great idea. But as I've become more invested in this with every passing day, it's easy to get excited because of the vision that Kyle shares to all of us for how to be a more inclusive everything, environment, worlds, company, all of it.
I love it. Okay. Is there anything that feels really important to you in the work that you're doing that we haven't touched on yet?
No, this has been such a great conversation. Like, we're so used to coming in and being like, we did an Ironman, and I hope that inspires you. And if it did, you should go check out our social media. Or if it did, you should look at our website. And it has been a wonderful thing. But I'll tell you this, when we did Kona last year, we raised $1 million with 3 other board members. All 5 of us did Kona. So there was 3 board members and me and Kyle. And it used to be 10 years ago that if Kyle and I raised, we raised more money. If Kyle and I raised, more eyeballs fell onto the foundation. And that was never the goal. I mean, yes, we can both enjoy being in the limelight or having the attention, but we wanted to help as many people as possible. And when I look at that $1 million, I don't look at it and go, we raised $1 million because Brent and Kyle were there. We raised $1 million because for the 10 years that I had been the executive director and that Kyle and I had focused on this as a business, we built up this amazing network of supporters, of board members, of people that wanted to lift up this mission of inclusion. And so those 3 board members were able to go out to their network and they raised the bulk of those funds. And we are forever indebted to them because that money is funding our inclusive employment program. And it's even gone a step further that we worked with some law firms last year that we gave every employee at the Kyle Pease Foundation a non-performance-based grant. It really is an opportunity for us to put money in the hands of our employees for life beyond employment, to be able to support them beyond not only the finish as employees, but beyond employment, where they're not going to be 75 years old bagging groceries, that they can go sit on the porch and tell stories about all the things they did that nobody believes them about. It's been really fun to talk with you here today, that the focus was not on what Kyle and I did as athletes. The focus is on what the organization has done to lift up so many others like Kyle. So
Yes, thank you for giving guys on the space to share more the scope of the foundation. Truly appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I know I've said that I'm impressed like 8 times now, but it's true. And I'm grateful that we have connected because I align so much on the curiosity and just the evolution that you're bringing to culture and the way we think about people. And those are the conversations that do the best on this show because it's an audience of listeners that have their mind opened and they want to be aware of different things that are happening and they want to get involved and kind of shape a future that maybe looks a little bit different, a little more inclusive than what we grew up with. So, no, I think the work that you're doing is amazing. And I'm so grateful that you took the time to tell my people about it.
Rachel, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Of
you.
course. Okay, for everybody listening who is feeling as inspired as I am and they want to connect with you or give to the foundation or get involved, where is the best place for people to find you?
So website is the best because it lets you connect to everything. KylePeaseFoundation.org. I would say that Instagram and YouTube are a treasure trove of content to see the foundation on full display, including videos on YouTube about some of these athletes that now work for the foundation. We call it our Day in the Life series to see what life is like for them, getting to work, being here. So many different ways to connect with us. Sign up for the newsletter, sign up to volunteer, donate. All the different ways that you can engage with us lives right there at KylePeaseFoundation.org.
Beautiful. We'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. Okay, before we close, this question is for each of you individually. What do you want people to know? Like, if you had the biggest platform in the world, thank you for coming into our little but growing platform. But if you had the world's stage and you could give one message to everybody that you thought would be most impactful right now, 2025 and moving forward, what would that be?
Just continue to be curious. It's so easy to make assumptions and to just make decisions about what you think is happening with somebody or something or whatever. And when you allow yourself that curiosity, you allow yourself the opportunity to bring more people in, because now all of a sudden you're open to their ideas, you're open to who they are as an individual, or you're open to them sitting in a wheelchair strapped down with all sorts of Velcro to be an employee and a leader of people. So that's my one thing.
Be present. Enjoy the moment. Enjoy where you are, because you are right where you're supposed to be. That's very important. You just be present and love where you are.
Those are both such good answers. Curiosity and presence. So straightforward and yet sometimes so hard. So thank you again so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
If this episode sparked something new in you, come join the conversation on Substack at curiouslifeofachildfreewoman.substack.com. Podcasting is amazing, but I have been craving a more two-way conversation with you, and the Curious Life Club on Substack provides that. Subscribe for free bonus content, weekly reflections, and sneak peeks into what's next. Of course, don't forget to follow on Instagram, Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, for more stories, guest highlights, and moments that remind us why curiosity is so important. Until next time, let's stay curious together.